I never imagined that the quiet rhythm of suburban life in our cozy Chicago neighborhood could hide such a storm of forbidden emotions. At 35, I thought I had it all figured out. A stable marriage to Tom, my high school sweetheart turned successful architect, a charming bungalow with white picket fences and days filled with freelance writing from home. But then there was Ethan, my next-door neighbor, a brooding 38-year-old artist who moved in last spring, his studio overflowing with canvases that captured the raw essence of human longing. His eyes, deep pools of midnight blue, always seemed to hold secrets, as if he could see right through the facade I wore every day. It started innocently enough, or so I told myself. Tom's frequent business trips left me alone more often than not, the house echoing with silence that gnawed at my soul. Ethan would knock on my door, offering to fix a leaky faucet or mow the lawn, his voice a low, velvety murmur that sent unexpected tingles racing down my spine. Our conversations began as casual chit-chat over coffee, discussing the latest neighborhood gossip or his abstract paintings, but soon they delved deeper, uncovering layers of vulnerability I hadn't shared with anyone in years. He spoke of lost loves and unspoken dreams, his words wrapping around me like a warm embrace on a chilly autumn evening. Yet, beneath the surface, a current of something darker simmered. I caught glimpses of shadows in his past, a divorce shrouded in mystery, whispers from other neighbors about late-night visitors to his home. Was he truly the kind soul he portrayed, or was there a hidden agenda in his helpful gestures? One rainy afternoon, as thunder rumbled overhead, he confessed a fragment of his history that chilled me to the bone, a betrayal that had left him wandering, searching for redemption. My heart pounded, torn between fear and an inexplicable pull toward him. The air between us crackled with unspoken tension, every glance a spark that threatened to ignite. As days blurred into weeks, the line between neighborly kindness and something profoundly intimate began to fade. I found myself anticipating his visits, my pulse quickening at the sound of his footsteps on my porch. But what lay ahead? Would this growing connection shatter my world or reveal truths I never dared to face? The suspense built like a gathering storm, leaving me breathless, yearning to uncover the enigma that was Ethan and the desires he awakened within me. Oh, how my mind races now, wondering what revelations await in the chapters yet to unfold, each one promising to unravel the mystery and draw me deeper into this web of passion and peril. I remember the first time Ethan truly crossed the threshold into my life, not just my home. It was a crisp fall morning in our Lincoln Park suburb, the leaves turning fiery shades of red and orange, mirroring the unspoken heat building inside me. Tom had left for another conference in New York, his suitcase packed with blueprints and promises of a quick return. "I'll miss you, Sarah," he'd said, kissing my forehead absent-mindedly before driving off. I waved from the porch, feeling the familiar ache of solitude settle in like an uninvited guest. That's when Ethan appeared, as if summoned by my quiet despair. He was trimming his hedges, his flannel shirt clinging to his broad shoulders from the morning dew. "Morning, Sarah," he called out, his smile disarming, those blue eyes locking onto mine with an intensity that made my cheeks flush. We chatted across the fence about the upcoming neighborhood block party, but his gaze lingered, pulling me in like a tide I couldn't resist. Before I knew it, he was offering to help with the stubborn garage door that Tom had been meaning to fix. "No sense in you struggling alone," he said, his voice smooth as aged whiskey. He came over that afternoon, toolbox in hand, and as he worked, we talked, really talked, about my writing, how I poured my heart into stories of unfulfilled dreams, and his art, canvases splashed with emotions he claimed were inspired by the beauty in everyday chaos. His laugh was infectious, a deep rumble that vibrated through me, stirring feelings I'd long buried under marital routine. By evening, the door was fixed, but he stayed for dinner, a simple pasta I whipped up. We sat at the kitchen table, candlelight flickering, sharing stories of our youth. He spoke of growing up in a small Midwest town, running wild in cornfields. But there was a hesitation in his words, a shadow that hinted at pains he wasn't ready to reveal. It sent a shiver through me, this mystery man next door, so close yet so enigmatic. Our daily conversations became my secret lifeline. Mornings over coffee on the porch, afternoons discussing books or films, Ethan had a way of making the mundane feel electric. He'd drop by under the guise of borrowing sugar or returning a tool, but we'd end up lost in hours of dialogue. "Your eyes light up when you talk about your characters," he'd say, leaning in closer, his hand brushing mine accidentally. Or was it? Each touch was a spark, igniting a warmth that spread through my veins, making my heart race with a mix of guilt and exhilaration. As weeks passed, the romance blossomed subtly, like wildflowers pushing through cracks in concrete. One evening, with Tom delayed by a storm, Ethan invited me to his studio. The room was a sanctuary of creativity, paints and brushes scattered, the air thick with the scent of turpentine and possibility. He showed me a painting, a swirl of colors representing forbidden yearnings, he explained, his voice husky. Our fingers intertwined as he guided my hand over the canvas, teaching me to blend shades. In that moment, our souls seemed to merge, a silent dance of understanding that left me breathless. We shared a lingering look, the kind that speaks volumes without words, and I felt a pull toward him that was both terrifying and intoxicating. But the mystery deepened. Late one night, I saw a light in his window, silhouetted figures arguing. Who was she? An ex? A secret? The next day, he was at my door again, eyes haunted, offering to help with groceries. "You don't have to do this," I whispered, but he insisted, his presence a comfort laced with questions. Our talks turned more personal. He confessed fragments of his divorce, a betrayal that shattered him, leaving him wary of trust. "But with you, Sarah, it's different," he murmured, his breath warm against my ear as we sat on the couch, a movie playing forgotten in the background. The attraction was palpable, a magnetic force drawing us nearer. Then came that fateful day in the park. It was a sunny Saturday, the kind where families picnicked and kids laughed on swings. Ethan suggested a walk to clear our minds, away from prying neighbor eyes. We strolled along the winding paths of Washington Park, leaves crunching underfoot, our conversation flowing effortlessly. He shared a poem he'd written, words of longing that mirrored my own hidden desires. As we sat on a secluded bench by the lagoon, the sun dipping low, casting golden hues, the air between us thickened with unspoken tension. Our hands found each other, fingers lacing in a gentle hold that sent waves of electricity through me. He leaned in, his lips brushing my temple in a tender gesture, whispering how he'd dreamed of this closeness. The world faded, the ducks on the water, the distant chatter, leaving only us in a bubble of shared vulnerability. What followed was a moment of profound connection, our essences intertwining in a dance as old as time, veiled in the soft whispers of the wind. It was like unlocking a hidden chamber of the heart, where passions bloomed in secret gardens, leaving us both trembling with the afterglow of discovery. Yet even in that bliss, suspense lingered. As we walked back, his phone buzzed incessantly, a call he ignored with a tense jaw. "Old ghosts," he said vaguely, but his eyes darted, fueling my curiosity. What secrets did he harbor? How far would this romance take us? My heart pounded with eagerness for what lay ahead, the mystery unfolding like a thriller I couldn't put down. The days following our park encounter felt like stepping into a dream where every moment shimmered with possibility, yet shadows of doubt crept in like uninvited guests. Ethan's presence in my life had become a melody I couldn't stop humming, each note laced with romance and a thrill that kept my heart racing. I was 35, a woman who thought she knew love through Tom's steady reliability, but Ethan was rewriting my definition of passion with every glance, every whispered word. Our Chicago neighborhood, with its tree-lined streets and nosy neighbors, seemed to close in around us as if it knew the secrets we were beginning to weave. His visits grew more frequent, each one a delicate dance of pretense and truth. He'd arrive with a toolbox or a book to lend, But we'd end up on my porch swing, legs brushing, sharing stories that peeled back layers of our souls. One evening, as fireflies began their twilight dance, he told me about his childhood dog, a scrappy mutt named Jasper who'd been his only friend during lonely years. His voice cracked, and I reached for his hand, feeling the warmth of his skin ignite a fire within me. "You make me feel safe, Sarah," he murmured, his thumb tracing circles on my palm, a gesture so tender it felt like a vow. My heart swelled, but a flicker of unease stirred. His past was a puzzle with missing pieces, and I was desperate to solve it. Our romance deepened in stolen moments. One rainy afternoon, we baked cookies in my kitchen, flour dusting his dark hair like snow. Laughing, I brushed it away, and his hand caught mine, pulling me close until our breaths mingled. The air was thick with the scent of vanilla and unspoken longing, our closeness a silent symphony of heartbeats. We didn't speak of Tom, but his absence loomed like a specter, making each touch feel like a rebellion against the life I'd built. Yet, I couldn't pull away. Ethan was a current pulling me under, and I didn't want to surface. But the mystery of Ethan gnawed at me. Late one night, I saw him pacing his backyard, phone pressed to his ear, his voice low and urgent. "It's over, I told you," he snapped before hanging up, his silhouette tense against the moonlight. The next morning, he was at my door, all smiles, offering to plant tulip bulbs in my garden. "For spring," he said, his eyes searching mine for absolution. I wanted to ask about the call, but his fingers grazed my wrist and the question dissolved in a rush of warmth. Instead, we knelt in the damp earth, planting promises for a future neither of us dared name, our hands brushing in a dance of quiet intimacy. The neighborhood began to notice. Mrs. Callahan, the block's self-appointed watchdog, raised an eyebrow when she saw us laughing over iced tea on my lawn. "Careful, dear," she said one day, her tone sharp with warning. "That man's got a past." Her words planted a seed of doubt, but Ethan's presence was a balm, soothing my fears. He'd recite poetry under the stars, his voice wrapping around me like a velvet cloak, each word a brushstroke painting a world where we could exist without guilt. One night, as we sat on his porch, a meteor streaked across the sky, and he pulled me close, his lips grazing my forehead in a moment of pure, unspoken devotion. It was a vow without words, a connection that felt eternal yet fragile, like a flame in the wind. Yet the suspense tightened its grip. A letter arrived at his house, the return address smudged, but I glimpsed a woman's name, Clara. When I asked, he brushed it off, saying it was old business. But his eyes darkened, and he changed the subject with a kiss on my cheek that left me dizzy. Later, I found a photo in his studio, tucked behind a canvas, a younger Ethan with a woman, their smiles bright but strained. Was she the voice on the phone? The ghost haunting his nights? My heart pounded with questions, each one a thread in the unraveling tapestry of our romance. As we planned another walk in the park, his hand in mine, I felt the weight of secrets pressing down, eager to know if love would conquer or if the truth would tear us apart. As the leaves turned to gold and crimson, blanketing our Chicago streets in a tapestry of autumn's farewell, the mystery surrounding Ethan began to unravel, pulling me deeper into a whirlwind of romance and revelation. Our walks in the park had become sacred rituals, hands intertwined under the guise of friendship, but each step carried the weight of our growing bond. I was 35, teetering on the edge of a life I no longer recognized, with Tom's calls growing shorter, his voice distant like an echo from another world. Ethan, with his artist's soul and enigmatic smile, had become my anchor, his presence a soothing elixir that chased away the loneliness. One crisp evening, as we wandered the winding paths of Washington Park again, the sun setting in a blaze of fiery hues, he stopped abruptly by the lagoon. "Sarah, there's something I need to tell you," he said, his voice trembling like leaves in the wind. My heart raced, a mix of fear and anticipation knotting in my chest. We sat on that same secluded bench where our connection had first blossomed, his hand cradling mine as if it were fragile porcelain. He spoke of Clara, not just a name from a letter, but his ex-wife, a woman whose betrayal had left scars deeper than he'd admitted. She'd been calling, trying to rekindle old flames, but he'd shut her out, choosing instead the light he found in me. "You're my muse, my redemption," he whispered, his eyes locking onto mine with an intensity that sent shivers cascading down my spine. In that moment, our souls danced in harmony, a tender merging of hearts that felt like coming home after a long, weary journey. The romance between us ignited like never before. He painted a portrait of me, capturing not just my features but the essence of my spirit. Strokes of passion and vulnerability blended on canvas. We spent hours in his studio, music playing softly, our laughter mingling with the scent of fresh paint. One night, under a blanket of stars visible through his skylight, he read from a journal of poems written for me, each line a caress that wrapped around my being, drawing us closer in a web of unspoken promises. His fingers traced patterns on my arm, igniting sparks that traveled through me, a silent language of affection that spoke volumes. We shared dreams of a future unbound by conventions, where love wasn't hidden in shadows, but bloomed freely like the tulips we'd planted. Yet, the suspense peaked when Tom announced an early return. Panic fluttered in my chest as Ethan and I met one last time before the storm. In the quiet of my living room, with curtains drawn against prying eyes, he held me close, his breath warm against my neck. "Whatever happens, know that you've awakened something in me I thought was lost forever," he murmured, our foreheads touching in a gesture of profound unity. The air hummed with the electricity of our connection, a culmination of all the stolen moments, the whispered confessions, and the gentle explorations of each other's worlds. It was a pinnacle of tenderness, where our essences intertwined in a timeless embrace, leaving an indelible mark on my soul. The truth emerged the next day. Clara showed up at his door, her arrival a thunderclap in our serene suburb. I watched from my window, heart pounding, as they argued on his porch. She accused him of running from their past, but he stood firm, declaring his heart belonged elsewhere now. When she left, he came to me, eyes filled with resolve. "It's over for good," he said, pulling me into his arms. In that embrace, the mystery dissolved, replaced by clarity and unwavering devotion. We confessed our love openly, vowing to face whatever came next. Tom's return, the neighborhood whispers, together. As winter approached, our romance endured, a beacon in the cold. Tom and I parted ways amicably, his travels revealing our drifted paths. Ethan and I built a life of shared sunrises and painted sunsets, our bond forged in the fires of secrecy now shining brightly. The intrigue that once thrilled me transformed into a profound, lasting passion, a story of two souls finding each other amid life's enigmas. And in quiet moments, I still feel that initial shiver of curiosity, grateful for the journey that led me to this eternal flame.